I would say the thing I don't like about Knob Creek is that damn black wax they have.
It's messy, isn't it?
Not messy. You need a chainsaw to get through the damn thing. I mean, it is the toughest wax to get off the bottle.
Yeah.
What they should is drive on down the road and ask Maker's Mark, hey, how do we get your wax? Because their wax is somewhat soft and easy to get through. This thing, it's hard.
I think Knob Creek went to extra trouble to make sure the wax didn't drip down the bottle, so they didn't have to fight that patent or whatever.
Welcome to another trip down the Bourbon Road with your hosts, Jim and Mike. So grab a glass of your favorite bourbon and kick back.
We would like to thank Tommy and Gwen Mitchell from Logheads Home Center for supporting this episode of the Bourbon Road. Find out more about their fine rustic furniture at logheadshomecenter.com. We would like to thank our friends at Premium Bar Products for sponsoring this episode. If you're ready to step up your game at your home bar, check out premiumbarproducts.com to choose from their wide selection of glassware, all of which can be custom engraved with your personal message or logo. And there's no minimum order. So after the episode, head over to premiumbarproducts.com and check out everything they have to offer. Now, let's get on with the show. Hello, everybody. I'm Jim Shannon.
I'm Mike Hyatt.
And this is the Bourbon Road. And today, Mike, we are once again in studio 2A, Jeff the Ben Farm, looking outside at the wildly colored trees of fall.
I promise next week we're going to have a guest on. But last week we drank 2 10-year-old bourbons, right? A little older, priced middle range, right? Great bourbons. This week, we pulled 2 off my shelf. A little bit older, a little bit more aged. So we're going to do a 15-year-old and an 18-year-old today.
So we're exploring bourbon age on this one.
Yeah.
Talking a little bit about extra aged bourbons.
Yeah. What's that oak do to that bourbon after a certain point?
Yeah. And I think some distilleries, who have had, let's just call them extra aged bourbons for now. Some distilleries have introduced extra aged bourbons, have introduced bourbons that are definitely in a profile that's not for everybody. They've got that heavy oak, that tannic bite, that overwhelming amount of leather and tobacco and chocolate and just the heavy oaky flavors. Some people love it.
Yeah, some people are into that. And I always equate that to kind of like barbecue, I personally don't like an over smoked barbecue. Something that's had heavy just smoke poured to it, because I don't want to burp up smoke for the next 6 or 7 days, right? Who likes to do that?
So I guess some people making smoking stuff on their grill, they'll wrap it after a number of hours to make sure it doesn't take on too much smoke.
Sure.
And there's other people that just leave it unwrapped the whole time, right?
Just big old piece of burnt meat.
They want that smoke ring to go all the way to the center of the meat, right?
It won't go that far. I'll tell you that. It won't go that far. You just have a big layer of burntness on the outside.
Yeah.
Then you burp that up.
The last episode, we talked about a couple of 10-year-old bourbons. We were talking about fall bourbons. Certainly any bourbon that has some heavy oak characteristics is going to play a little bit better in the fall.
Sure.
So this is maybe a continuation of the last episode, but kind of on a little bit different topic. Now we're talking about extra aged bourbons, those bourbons that are in excess of 15 years.
Sure.
So what do we have for the first pour today, Mike?
Yeah, because we need to get straight to this whiskey, right?
We do.
So we got a bottle of Elijah Craig 18-year-old. Now, I picked this up down at the gift shop down there. Anybody can walk in there and get a bottle. You just got to be there on the right day at the right time.
And what does a bottle of this cost?
MSRP is going to run you about $150. Now, if you buy at the gift shop, you're going to expect to pay a little bit more. After taxes, I think around $190.
Okay. So bottom line, here's a bourbon that is 18 years old. It's from a well-known, well-respected Kentucky distiller that distributes nationwide.
Yep.
So here's a bottle that you can get You don't have to pay for it. It's not cheap, but you can get it.
You can definitely get it. And it is the standard stuff. It's just been aged for forever.
Yeah.
18 years is a long time to think about how much whiskey you're going to put out, right?
That's right. Well, Mike, let's go ahead and dip into it a little bit here, and then we'll talk a little bit about what makes up this bottle.
All right, let's do it.
Let's do it.
That's a beautiful nose, ain't
It's got a great nose on it.
Me and Jim are sitting here looking at each other, just smiling because some orange in there.
Yeah, there's definitely some orange in there. That's kind of interesting because I don't know that I typically get orange on Elijah Craig whiskey. Orange but a nice sweetness, a toasted oak sweetness, a little bit of chocolate orange, I think.
Yeah, I was trying to think of a orange chocolate I've ever had, but I get a little bit of caramel on this. That sweetness is still coming out. Beautiful color on this. Now this is only 90 proof. So, for 18-year-old, you'd think maybe it'd be up in the hundreds, but 90 proof is, I wonder why they didn't go with that at Elijah Craig. Isn't Elijah Craig 94 proof?
Elijah Craig is 94 on the shelf. That's correct.
So why wouldn't they have went with 94 on this?
Well, maybe when it gets to this age, it presents itself better at the 90 proof. I don't know.
Probably not a whole lot in the barrel.
I would imagine there's quite a bit less than in a typical Elijah Craig barrel.
Well, let's drink this thing.
Let's do it.
That's like a Charleston chewed.
It's got a lot going on in the fruit area. I'm avoiding talking about the oakiness of it first. So I'm going to go straight to the non-oak, non-tannic notes to try and talk a little bit about what I'm pulling out. Very kind of brown sugary, very apples and cherries and peaches and just a lot of different kind of just this like a fruit compote.
I could get that. It's definitely rich. It's more watery than I thought it would be, though. It's not viscous, it's not mouth coating.
It's got a little bit of bitterness, but I think that's coming through. And I'm going to start talking a little bit about the sort of the oak qualities. Now, I think it's kind of that oaky, tannic bitterness coming through a little bit. But you know me, Mike, I kind of like these extraordinary, out of the way flavors that we don't typically get in bourbons. They kind of take me a little by surprise and make me think. And I kind of like that. For some people, it might be off-putting. For me, it's kind of like this exploration and something I haven't had before. And I really like this.
It's a good bourbon, definitely, especially to sit by the fire. Now, this thing's got a little bit of hug on it, doesn't it?
It does. It does. For a 90 proofer, it's definitely grabbing me right here in the top of the chest.
Yeah, it moved its own self on back down there and hit home. Now, this has got that same standard mash bill, though. Like you said, 78% corn, 12% malted barley, and 10% rye. Yeah,
so typical Heaven Hill mash bill. Pretty much everything they make follows that traditional mash bill, except for the ryes, of course. This is kind of balanced. I think it's a little balanced. It's not overly oaky, in my opinion. It does have a nice amount of fruitiness to it. It's got that honey, a little bit of a honey drip to it, almost like a honey cough drop. Yeah, without the menthol, no menthol, just that honey cough drop.
Well, it's definitely a beautiful expression from them. And we'd posted about this before when I first got this bottle. Kind of got beat up on it a little bit. People are like, you can't get that. You can get it. You just, like I said, you have to be right time, right place. It's nationwide. I think it's a good bourbon. The only thing I would hit them on is they didn't bring it up in proof, but it drinks like 100 proofer to me. It's nice and it's got that hug.
Yeah, I would definitely say this, for me, this is kind of to sum it up on the notes here. I think it's kind of it's a fruity, kind of dripping honey, but it's got that tannic. It's got a little bit of that tannic bite from the oak. It's definitely got a hint of chocolate, For me, though, the orange didn't come through on the palate like it did on the nose.
There's a slight bit of citrus there, but not like it does on the nose. The nose is just absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
But you're right, it doesn't hit there. The oakiness is not there for me at all, barely. I'm surprised on it, and maybe it's because they proofed it down. I'm not sure. I thought this would drink a little bit more oaky than it is.
So what do you think about the finish? Long, medium?
I think it's just a medium finish.
Yeah, just a medium finish. I get that. I get a little bit of a lingering bitterness there, though. Now, this is my first bourbon of the day. So you tend to get a little more bitterness out of that first bourbon of the day. So I might attribute it to that. Are you getting the same thing? Or
Yeah, I get that. I mean, this is my first pour of the day, too. Busy today, so been busy all weekend, it seemed like. But yeah, it's just that tad bit of bitterness from that oak, probably, that you'd get in an older bourbon. And we were talking before we started recording about older bourbons and what's out there, what's the oldest bourbon, and you won't find a lot of high proof older bourbons. They're usually proofed down, and maybe that's so they can squeeze as much as they can out of that barrel.
Yeah. I would say that the Elijah Craig 18, in my opinion, probably makes it's got a beautiful nose. You're right. The palate is kind of balanced a little bit. It's got that lingering bitterness for me. The finish is only kind of medium, which makes it, at $150, I'm thinking, that's a bit of money to pay. But I do like exploring these flavors I get in this that you don't get in other whiskeys. I think that probably those barrels that make up the Elijah Craig 18 are probably better utilized in blending some lower age bourbons. Like, for example, the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, right? Maybe it's got a few of these older barrels in it like this. I don't know.
Well, hopefully we can one day get Heaven Hill on and we can talk about that with them and stuff. You know what? The roadies have been hitting us up lately big time, Jim, about our pick. And I think some of them think we're messing with them, that we actually did a pick. But it's coming.
It's coming. So where are we at right now? We do know that the distillery is either bottling or preparing to bottle, that they have requested artwork for the distillery pick label.
The side label.
Label. And we have already ordered our pick labels that are going on the bottle, and they'll be here a couple of days. About the time the show comes out, we should have the labels in hand.
So we got that, and we're probably locked on a price of what we're going to do. We're just waiting on those bottles, and what we're going to do is we're going to label every bottle that comes out, right? And me and Jim are going to sign each bottle.
That's right. I'm going to have to warm up that sign in hand.
I got arthritis in my hand, so that's going to be a lot of signing. It cramps up after I hold a pen for a while, but we're going to sign every bottle on the side of the bottle. And then when we're ready, I think we got a weekend picked out to do the release on. We're going to put it up on our Facebook group and let her rip. Hopefully the roadies will buy every bottle. They told me they would.
Yeah.
Now they're asking if we could get a Stag Junior pick, because now Stag Junior is going to let you do picks on that.
Chances are that we'll be up and available for multiple picks over the next year. I don't see any problem. Let's see how this one goes first. But yeah, I think we've got a great partner now, and opportunities to do picks are going to be basically limitless, I think.
So you think there's 200 people want to buy a bottle of Stag Junior?
Well, we're going to take a look at the people who purchased the bottles, and we're going to see who's going on the next pick, right?
Yeah. I mean, we can't take Adam on every pick.
Well, if he buys enough bottles, we might have to.
You think Sarah will kill him? Or she might want to go on the pick with us.
That could be. That could be.
Well, I think this is a good bottle, Jim. I think if you want to have something really nice or special on your shelf for people to sip on and show them what Kentucky can really do, this is a nice bottle to have. Now, this was kind of hidden behind other bottles and stuff. So you were digging through my
I was digging.
bottles.
I was looking for something good. Yeah, so this bottle is not going to knock anybody's socks off. It's not like this amazing, wonderful, blow your mind bourbon. It's just an extra aged bourbon. It's got a few notes, a little bit of a profile you don't normally experience. It's a bottle that will introduce you to something that you don't get every day, which is that extra oakiness, that extra barrel influence that you get. There's nothing else like it. That's for sure.
I'll give you an extra Kentucky hug. I'll tell you that, because every time I drink it, it'll hit you right home.
For a 90 proofer, it does do a job on that.
Yeah.
All right, Mike. So let's continue drinking this, and when we come back, we will talk about another well-aged bourbon.
Yeah, let's do it.
We would like to thank Tommy and Gwen Mitchell from Logheads Home Center for supporting this episode of the Bourbon Road. Logheads Home Center, nestled in the hills of Kentucky, is an industry leader in building handcrafted rustic furniture. Family owned and operated, they take pride in offering only the very best for their customers. The Logheads, and that's what they like to call themselves, are skilled woodcrafters who are passionate about creating rustic furniture for people who appreciate the beauty of natural wood. Owners Tommy and Gwen don't just sell the rustic lifestyle, they live it. And you can be sure that Logheads furniture will always be handcrafted in Kentucky by artisans who embrace the simple way of life. Logheads rustic furniture is made from northern white cedar, a sustainable wood that's naturally rot and termite resistant. Its beauty and quality will add warmth to your earthy lifestyle for generations to come. Be sure to check out everything they have to offer at logheadshomecenter.com. And while you're at it, give Tommy and Gwen a shout on Facebook or Instagram at Logheads Home Center.
All right, well, we are back for the second half of our extra aged bourbon episode. And Mike, what do we have in our glass for the second half?
Well, you're going to like this one, Jim.
I do.
Knob Creek 15-year-old, 100 proof. Just released this past June. About $100 MSRP.
Yeah, so this is the 2020 special release of the 15-year Knob Creek. Pretty much available, again, nationwide. So get the theme here, guys. We're trying to pick stuff that you can get your hands on. It might not be real easy, but it's doable.
It's doable. You'd have to search it out. And I've seen this on the shelf all over Kentucky. At that $100 mark, it comes in a nice little box. Some people have pulled it out of that box to make sure it goes on the shelf. Mine came in a box. I actually overpaid for this a little bit down the road, but sometimes you do that.
Well, let's get right to it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Now, that's a bit different than what we just had in the first half. There's not a whole lot of fruitiness to that.
A little bit different because it comes from Jim Beam, right? 75% corn, 13% rye, 12% malted barley. Pretty close to that Elijah Craig, though.
Yeah, this is a typical Knob Creek. I think it's got those notes you expect out of a Knob Creek, kind of that plum raisin, that deeper, darker fruit, but not that that mixture, that fruity, that kind of, I don't know what it was with the Elijah Craig. It was kind of what I call it, a fruit compote, kind of a lot of stuff together.
Yeah.
This is a little more focused on the darker fruit, kind of the raisiny plum kind of fruitness.
I think the oak and leather is coming out in this.
Yeah. So this has got, and so the Elijah Craig was an 18-year. This is a 15-year, but this one's presenting a bit more oakiness than the Elijah Craig did. Now, what do you think that is?
Well, they didn't proof it down. They proofed it to 100.
Okay. That has some to play with it, I'm sure.
I'd like to see 120 on this right here.
That would be a strong, bold one, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like this one a lot more. honestly, right off the bat, hasn't touched my tongue yet, only on the nose. The Elijah Craig was a beautiful nose, and it had that nice fruity orange kind of it was a great nose. Don't get me wrong. This is more my profile. Yeah, you said, I bet you're going to like this, Jim. You're right, because this is my thing.
Now, I've drank on this bottle a little bit more, as you can see. I don't know why I like it a little bit more than probably because it's 100 proof, you know. Nice age on it. Now Jim's over there beating me to the punch.
Oh, sorry, Mike. I'm not supposed to do that. Oh, wow. Yeah. So on the taste, this is oak pow, right?
With a little bit of spice to it.
Yeah, there's definitely quite a bit of spice to this. This is a little bit more rye forward, a little more spice forward. It's getting spice from probably both the rye content and from the barrel. It's definitely a bolder, spicier, but it doesn't have those as much of the tannic notes that the Elijah Craig had, I think. Not so much of the side of the tongue bitterness.
A little bit of dryness on this still, like you said, but those raisins and caramels, just a tad hint of brown sugars coming through. Not a whole lot, but man, that oak is powerful in this one.
Yeah, and the finish on this one is quite a bit longer. I think it sticks around, and it is begging me for another sip. You know, when I was drinking the Elijah Craig, I'd be honest, it wasn't really saying, take another sip, take another sip, take another sip. This one is.
Now, what I'd say about this is that Kentucky hug doesn't hit home with that Kentucky hug. Maybe that's because we've already had some bourbon now, but it doesn't flow down your chest like you would think. It sits right on the back of your palate there, like you said, just begging you to drink a little bit more. This one actually has that cool, I don't know, cool menthol taste, minty. I'm getting out of it when it first hits your palate.
Yeah, there is a little bit of that refreshing, that rye refreshing kind of, I don't want to call it a mintiness, but maybe it is a mintiness. So let's talk a little bit about age. So I kind of put bourbons into, in my opinion, I put bourbons into like 3 or 4 different age groups. So we've got bourbons under 4 years. Bourbons under 4 years, because of the high corn content, that corn sweetness can kind of show very brightly. You heard them called brittle. Mm-hmm. You've heard them called bright. You might have heard them called corning, you know, kind of that corn sweetness. Bourbons under 4 years tend to have that those notes, and we typically look at them as youthful notes. And we got bourbons in the 4 to 8 year range. This is when bourbons really start to mature, right? They start to lose that corny sweetness, those youthful notes, and they start to pick up more of that barrel flavor, particularly like wheat whiskeys and wheated bourbons tend to really age well in that 4 to 8 year range.
Most of them pick up that special label too that says bottled and bond.
That's right. They can. At 4 years, they can be, if they meet the other criteria,
sure,
can be a bottled and bond. In that age, you know, most of the well-known, well-respected Kentucky bourbons that sort of form the core of what people drink out there, whether it be Elijah Craig or Wild Turkey or, you know, the standard Knob Creeks, the, you know, Jim Beam and the many others, Buffalo Trace, those bourbons all live in that 4 to 8 year range. And that's probably, those bourbons generally, they probably represent probably an 80% volume. And I'm just guessing here, 80% volume of those bourbons that are consumed in the bar scene and otherwise. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I think you're spot on right there. You know, if you're going to go into a bar and order something, it's probably in that range. It's not overly pricey where they can get their consumers to buy it. That's what a bar wants, to make that turnover, right? But then once you get past that 8 year, you get to 8 to 12 years. That's where that sweet spot is, right?
I think that's a sweet spot. And it's not just us saying that. I think it's kind of a well-accepted age range for what people call well-aged bourbons, right? Well-aged.
Yeah, that beautiful expression is Weller 12. One of me and your favorites right there, a wheated bourbon. Knob Creek's 12-year, they're 9-year. Both great bourbons. You got Baker's, another great bourbon.
Eagle Rare at 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of these bourbons reach that beautiful, full-bodied, full-flavored, that sort of, it takes on that right amount of oak influence. The youthfulness is well gone. They've concentrated the flavors a little bit. And, the bourbons have really reached that just the beauty of what a bourbon should be in that 8 to 12 year range.
Now, once you get past that 12 years, you start stepping it up a notch. And I would say right with that Elijah Craig, you get from 12 to 18 years. It's a different ballpark. Depends on the oak. And remember, we're talking about Kentucky bourbons here. We're not talking about any other thing, because some states like Texas, you'll never have an 18-year-old bourbon.
Right.
Ever. If you do, it must be something magical.
Well, yeah, there couldn't possibly be anything left in the barrel.
Yeah. So just remember, that's what we're talking about. Or in that, if you drew a line across the United States through Kentucky, I'd say it'd be in that range right there. But 12 to 18 years is where you start to pick up that oak and that age, that smokiness out of it and stuff. Like when Wild Turkey released their bottle and bond this year, thing was just packed with smokiness.
Yeah. And that really does depend on, now it's not just the age of the bourbon, but it's where in the rickhouse it was aged. If it's in the higher floors, they kind of take on a lot more heat, a lot more extreme temperature changes. It's going to be a little bit different than those that are on the lower floors. So distilleries a lot of times will try to mix and match those bourbons from the different floors to get that blended flavor they're looking for. Mike, back to the Knob Creek here. For me, if I had to choose between the two, I think you might already know this from what I've said so far, I'm going to go with the Knob Creek 15. For me, this is, it's a little more oaky than the Elijah Craig, but it's a little bit more in my wheelhouse.
Well, what I would say is this is more for me for fall.
Mm-hmm.
Elijah Craig, I'm going to pick that bottle up in the springtime.
Okay.
And it hits the springtime with those light fruits, that orange, that peaches you were talking about. That's a spring sipper for me. This is definitely a fall sipper.
Absolutely. Knob Creek 15, great choice for the fall. It does have, just warning you guys out there, it does have a very, let's call it a preponderance of oak.
It does, but after it's been sitting in a glass for a while, it's opening up. The oak's kind of slipping away. That heat's kind of slipping away. It just keeps begging you to drink more and more and more. Now, I prefer the 9-year over this right here.
Okay.
That's just me. I think it's just so much more beautiful, but it's also higher proof. So, I
mean, back when we were doing a lot of Knob Creek picks, there were a lot of Knob Creek picks available on the shelves. Things have changed a bit recently, but, a lot of times the 14-year barrels that people would kind of lean towards the 14-year barrels versus the 9-year barrels. I kind of felt the same as what you just said. I felt like the 9-year barrels a lot of times were a little more delicious than the 14-year-old barrels.
So let's talk about bourbons that are over that 18-year mark. So you go from 18 up to, let's say, 30.
Okay.
Right? You got some Rhetoric, 25-year-old barrels. And you got some Elijah Craig, older barrels, 23, 28. Those are pretty special.
Right. There are some barrels from Old Carter that are extra aged like that. Like these are extreme aged barrels, right? Because you don't really see any past 30, right? I have no experience with it.
I definitely don't.
25, 28-year-old, I guess it depends on where the barrel was stored, whether or not it's going to be something that's even drinkable or not. But yeah, It's nice to try these bourbons that have that extra age on them, get to experience the extra oak influence on the whiskey and see what that does to it. Decide for yourself if it's something for you or not. It's not for everybody.
I think that's, you say that, you get Pappy Van Winkle that's 23 years old, the elusive bottle that everybody craves and wants and stuff. I think there's a lot better bourbon out there than that, those older bottles and stuff that you crave. We drink that Rhetoric 25-year-old, and it really just wasn't anything special in there.
Yeah. I mean,
it was good bourbon.
Yeah, it was good bourbon, and it was nice to experience something with that kind of age on it because, that's what this is all about, right? It's about the experience.
Sure.
Trying something new, getting flavors you haven't gotten before, trying to pick out what makes it good, what makes it maybe not as good as something else.
Yeah, I want to try to something of everybody has on the shelf. I want to try something different. You know that about me. I always want to try some crafts out there that people can't get their hands on, something special. I'm always looking for the next big thing, but it's nice to come back to these companies that, these are bourbons. They're Kentucky bourbons made by gentlemen that have been making bourbon for a long time. So I think they're both great expressions. My spring, that 18-year-old, that's for great friends that come over and, hey, let's pull that sucker off the shelf and let's taste it. This 15, you're same way. Both $100, $150. It's probably out of the reach for a lot of people. I got them on the shelf because I wanted them, and usually when I want something, I'll just grab it. So I'd say if you want these bottles, they're obtainable. You just have to be at the right time at the right place. The Knob Creek 15-year-old, it says it's a limited edition, or are we going to see more of that from Knob Creek?
I think we will.
I hope we do. We get to see expressions like this come out. I would say the thing I don't like about Knob Creek is that damn black wax they have.
It's messy, isn't it?
Not messy. You need a chainsaw to get through the damn thing. I mean, it is the toughest wax to get off the bottle.
Yeah.
What they should is drive on down the road and ask Maker's Mark, hey, how do we get your wax? Because their wax is somewhat soft and easy to get through. This thing, it's hard.
I think Knob Creek went to extra trouble to make sure the wax didn't drip down the bottle, so they didn't have to fight that patent or whatever.
Well, a lot of people are going to that wax now too. I'd seen a post from somebody and said they won't drink a certain bourbon, which is Old Forester standard expression, because it has a screw top on it. That keeps that cost down from people and stuff. It costs extra to put that wax seal on there.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you from personal experience, that wax seal doesn't always keep it from popping open.
Well, let's remember, Weller 12 was in a screw top until just recently.
Yeah. So, and people looked for it, right?
They do.
I mean, I got a Weller 12 screw top up there, and it drinks mighty fine.
Yeah. All right, Mike. Well, where can people find us?
So people find us on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at The Bourbon Road. We're always on there. We hope you would follow us, especially on Instagram. We'd love talking to you on there. You can find us on Facebook at The Bourbon Road, right? And we have our own Facebook group, The Bourbon Roadies.
So The Bourbon Roadies is our private Facebook group. This is a group of about 1,100 people who share a common interest in bourbon and all things bourbon. We like to talk about bourbons we've tasted, bourbons we've tried, bourbons that we're looking for. We like to share our tasting notes, pictures of bourbons. Not only that, what we're doing lately, what we've cooked for dinner last night that we're having with a particular bourbon. So tasting, pairings, right, Mike?
Sure. There's a lot of our roadies that will make dinner for themselves, make barbecue, make all kinds of stuff. And they'll say, hey, this is what I have with this. And we'll give you an idea of what to get. Or they might have some review on a bourbon they've tasted. We've got people from the industry out there. They'll put their information on there, or other podcasters or other YouTubers. They're putting their information on our site. We love that. We invite everybody to just play nice on their stuff. And the thing we love about the roadies is that everybody shares their whiskey with each other.
Right. So there's constantly samples going out from one roadie to another, from us to roadies.
Yeah.
And in all directions. We get samples as well. So it's an awesome thing. It's a great thing to share your bourbon with somebody else. We don't allow any selling of bourbon on there. We don't want you to sell it, but you're perfectly welcome to give it away.
Well, we're fixing to sell some bourbon on there though. Legally. So our pick is coming up. We talked about it early in the show. The only way you can get a bottle of that is to be a roadie. So join up now. 3 easy questions.
That's right.
Are you 21? Do you like bourbon? Are you going to play nice? Because we don't tolerate any rudeness. So please join up. You can also go to our website,
thebourbonroad.com. And on our website, you can listen to the podcast. You can also read our blogs. Each week, Mike writes a blog. It's not necessarily a recap of the episode we had. It's more of just his thoughts on something related to the episode. You can also find our glassware on there. Our Bourbon Road Glencairns are available on there. We always love to see photos showing up on Facebook and Instagram with your favorite bottle in one of our glasses. It's always good to see.
So if you do post a photo of one of those glasses, make sure you tag Distillery Products and Premium Bar Products on there. They're one of our sponsors. They can also help you do some custom barware for your bar at home. If you want a decanter, you want your own glasses, you want a
flask,
to take on a road with you. Hey, they can do it for you.
Absolutely. And there's no minimum order. So if you just need 1 or 2, works out great. But if you need more, if you're a bourbon group, if you're a distillery, if you're somebody who has a need for more than, let's say, a case or more, definitely reach out to Mike and I. We'll let you know who to talk to there at Distillery Products in order to get your logo put on your glassware.
Yeah. So if you listen to this and you like what you hear, man, scroll on down and hit that subscribe button. If you really like what you hear, scroll back on up, hit that review button. Give us a 5-star if you would. Not give us a 1-star. Just tell us what we need to do better, and me and Jim will dang sure try. We've had several roadies that said, hey, we'd like to hear this on the podcast, and me and Jim made it happen for them. So if you got an idea for a show, reach out to us, let us know, and we'll try to make it happen.
Well, Mike, you keep saying give us a 1-star if you must, but we haven't gotten any yet, have we? Well, I think we got one.
And I who knows?
Yeah.
They didn't tell us what they didn't like. So.
We just want you to be honest.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Mike, I am Jay Shannon 63.
I'm One Big Chief.
And we will see you down
the Bourbon Road.
We do appreciate all of our listeners, and we'd like to thank you for taking time out of your day to hang out with us here on the Bourbon Road. We hope you enjoyed today's show, and if so, we would appreciate if you'd subscribe and rate us a 5-star with a review on iTunes. Make sure you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at the Bourbon Road. That way you'll be kept in the loop on all the Bourbon Road happenings. You can also visit our website at thebourbonroad.com to read our blog, listen to the show, or reach out to us directly. We always welcome comments or suggestions, and if you have an idea for a particular guest or topic, be sure to let us know. And again, thanks for hanging out with us.